Module 1. People often ask what, if any, are the benefits of past life therapy. To me, it's obvious. First of all, there are healings to consider. And I don't just mean the healing of an illness. I mean healing a relationship, finding answers, healing a business, healing motivation. In short, past life therapy may just be the answer to many of your problems, because past life therapy is one of the best tools to solve problems. Next would be money. People with money problems often find answers stem from a past life situation. You may have heard of past life therapy being a form of therapy that some hypnotists use to bring back memories of their former lives. Generally speaking, the hypnotist will put the person in a trance and then direct the subject back through their memory, a decade or so at a time, until they come to the earliest memory, and then they direct the subject to go to the life that's having an effect on the problem in the present. I've used the technique many times myself. I've taught it. Well, that's accurate as far as it goes, but I discovered something else, something more, and something that was extremely valuable as a resource for a great many other things as well. That discovery was that the effect was therapeutic, and I made that discovery during a party. I was attending a party some time ago. People always want me to put on a hypnosis show, and I usually oblige because they're a lot of fun. Nothing is more entertaining than stage hypnotism. One day, I think it was in the 60s. Wow, 50 years ago. It hardly seems real. But those 50 years, they went by in a blink. Anyway, as I was saying, during the stage show, I regressed a young lady, and she started to act and speak as though she were 3, maybe 4 years old. Well, everybody laughed, and we all got a kick out of that. And I thought I would try something that everyone talks about, but few people have ever experienced: past lives. I figured, well, she's a good subject, so let me try something. And so I took her back from her 3-year-old self and used a directional tone to send her to a past life. I was curious, and I did suspect that the result would be beneficial. Well, the whole room stared at her, waiting for her to speak. I was alongside when suddenly she sat up straighter, and she spoke in a commanding voice. She wasn't 3 anymore. It seems that she went into a life where she was the wife of a cotton plantation owner in the deep south of the U.S., long before the Civil War. We had fun questioning her about all the incidents in her life, and a good time was had by all. But when she came out of the trance, something had happened. I didn't know it at the time, but she had a case of Crohn's disease and was bothered by a constant stomach ache along with diarrhea. She called me the next day to ask me what I had done when she was in the trance. Well, I hadn't done anything different than usual, and I asked her why she asked. She told me about the pain and the diarrhea, and she said that for the first time in months, it was gone. The regression had apparently healed her. Well, after that, I regressed people with problems in every hypnotism class I did, and the results were really amazing. I taught a lot of classes of past life regression. I taught them in London and Paris, Holland, Greece, Switzerland, and Portugal, and most of the large cities of the United States, always with good results. How and why does it work? I haven't the slightest idea. I don't question it. As long as it works, I use it. The first time I was involved with the discussion of past lives in any form other than anecdotal was during a roundtable meeting with a few of my friends in the hypnosis and psychology fields. 2 of my friends were pure hypnotherapists, and 3 others were psychologists. One of them was a psychiatrist. We met once a week at our homes, and that particular week we used my house in Tarzana. That's a suburb of Los Angeles. We used my house for our forum that week. We were discussing the various means we each used with clients and patients, and another good friend, Dr. Eugene Jusick, who had recently written a book on past lives, Reaching for the Oversoul, Dr. Jusick wasn't present at the get-together, but we were discussing his book, in which he described a patient who, when in a trance, suddenly turned into a totally different personality. The American worker of Irish descent suddenly spoke as Yan Sulu, a gentleman from what was apparently ancient China. I had discussed this seeming phenomenon with Dr. Jusick many times, and it was still somewhat of a mystery. Dr. Jusick is a medical doctor, but his interests were in the field of past lives. My own background, which was heavily into the yoga philosophies, accepted the reincarnational experiences. The concept was that of karma, and the belief that karma couldn't be dealt with aside from working out past problems with present afflictions that matched the evil that had been done in a previous lifetime. And that's pretty much of a standard belief. At some point during the evening, we decided to see if one of us could somehow tap into that energy and bring out a discarnate entity. As all of us were professional hypnotists, we drew straws to see who'd be the subject. I drew the short straw. Harry Reasoner was elected to put me in a trance, and pretty soon I was floating in that satisfying neverland between the physical and the spiritual. His words became dimmer as I went deeper into the trance, and suddenly, just like that, it happened. I found myself as in a lucid dream, a dream where I was in complete control of the action. There I was, walking along a street that was obviously not Kansas. It appeared to be Mayan or Inca culture, circa 1500 or so. I was wearing kind of a kilt with an elaborate headdress. Along the street I strolled, immersed in the Mayan Indian culture, stopping here and there to bite into a vegetable or a piece of fruit. But my enjoyment didn't last long, for with a whisper of a wind, I was suddenly transported to the top of a pyramid, a Mayan pyramid. On a slab in front of me was a young woman. It appeared to be she was a sacrifice. I was a priest who was about to do the deed with a stone knife. Well, my true self came to the fore, and I wrenched myself out of that place and brought myself out of the trance. Oh, we had a fine time discussing that one, but only I could get a sense of what happened. That was no dream. I was there. That priest was me. Was it another life, or did I tap into one of those infinite universes that I was to eventually be so involved with? I was determined to discover more about this business. If there were such things as past lives, why weren't there any memories of them? Well, I thought long and hard about this, and I did come to some conclusions. We have a physical body, and we have a mind. About that, there can be no argument. The mind recalls much of our experiences, but not all of them. As example, when you were 6 years of age, you were still you. You were the same you that you are now, but you acted differently and your senses were different. You had more energy, and your taste buds were at their sharpest. You could see better, hear better, and be more active. Think about a day in your life when you were 6. Do you recall what you had for breakfast, lunch, dinner? Can you recall anything at all? Probably not. And yet it was you. Nature has given us the blessing of not remembering. Imagine having perfect recall, remembering every single thing you've ever read, eaten, thought, smelled, seen, and heard. Everything. You couldn't function with that mass of material in your mind. Now multiply that by 10, by 100, by 1,000, and say that you can remember every single lifetime of yours. Don't even try to think about it. You can't comprehend it. No one can. But that past of yours is valuable. It is what makes you the person that you are. You act and react due to the experience of that past. You may not remember why you don't want to drive 120 miles an hour, even though it'll get you to your destination sooner. But something in your past, something that you did, something that you heard, something that you read, that causes you to consider the possible consequences of driving at that speed, and so you keep it to a sensible pace. And the result is that you arrive at your destination safely. All of your past experiences create your attitude toward everything, even though you don't understand the original setting up of the causes, those causes that create your present attitude. Now, let me extend the thought into a previous life mode to simplify the idea of karma. The saying, "What you sow, so shall you reap," comes to mind. Karma simply says that you pay for every misdeed, no matter how small, no matter how large. Whatever the deed, your karmic responsibility will eventually kick in. Does that mean that we have no control over our lives? After all, if you were an evil being in a previous life and you had that debt to pay in this one, then of what use is programming or goal setting or prayer? If it's your karma to suffer, then what's the use of trying to overcome that responsibility? Now then, karma is too vast a subject to deal with in its entirety with these short sessions we have together. I'm going to have to simplify the subject to better explain the real theme of this program, and that is past life programming, past life therapy. To assume that there is any value in past life therapy, one must think that there is such a thing as reincarnation, and that too is a subject too vast to completely explain. Well, then you may well ask, and what's the point? If you don't assume karma and you don't assume reincarnation, then how can you speak about past life programming? Well, good question. I go only by my own experience. After all, how else can anyone explain anything except through the avenue of one's own experience? Aside from personal conditions, there have been many anecdotal situations, too many to overlook. During my 10 years of daily practicing hypnotherapy in the U.S. and in Europe, especially when I was teaching others the subject, I always included a segment of past life therapy when all else seemingly had failed to get the result the client was looking for. In many of these cases, the client didn't believe in reincarnation and just went along with the process, skeptical with the whole procedure, but treating it as though it was a simple guided fantasy. My own belief was always open, as in an infinite universe, one of the concepts I teach, anything is possible. And so I used only one criteria, one standard, and that was, did it work? If it worked, I used it without questioning the veracity of the belief. Were the people actually going to a past life? Maybe. Was it just an elaborate daydream? Maybe. Did it work? Yes. And that was all that I have ever been interested in. If it works, use it. During this series on past life therapy, we're going to assume that when you go to a past life that is having an effect on this one, that you are indeed getting valuable information from that past life. Assume. That means just pretend that it will work and go along with it. You can question the concept later on, but if the process solves your problems, reverses your limitations in life, enhances your health, creates better relationships, and gets you what you want, then use it and keep it as one of your major resources. What we're going to do with this series of modules is to open you to other possibilities. Things that, maybe you don't accept at first, and that's okay. I prefer that you be skeptical. I am, to a degree myself, still, to this day. As a seeker after the truth, I'll be talking to you, using logic in most cases, and in some, supposition, supposing, what if. But if the aim and the final result is to benefit you, your health, your pocketbook, and your life in general, if that is the aim, and if it works, use it. In addition to my talking to you, there'll also be a series of meditations. These meditations are designed to take you to a place you may not have ever contemplated, a different life. You, but different. A past life. All your past lives have an effect on your present life. All the good you accomplished in past lives show up in this one as well. All the bad shows up in this one as well. Everything is growth, and grow you will. This may very well be the most valuable course you've ever been involved with. This train is going to take you to a higher state of evolvement. The next stop, a better you. And here's the strange part. You don't have to believe it. After all, there's no real evidence. But after reaching a past life once or twice, you will at least have opened the door. And more knowledge can only lead to more wisdom. Module 2. I recall a time at the Hilton Hotel in Paris, that's not far from the Eiffel Tower. I was conducting a class in hypnovision, or hypnosis. I'd just gone through a few healing with hypnosis techniques, and I asked for a volunteer. I was going to demonstrate past life therapy to eliminate a problem. A woman stood up, Lily by name, and said she'd like to volunteer. Well, as it turned out, she had a problem with her left hand. She couldn't clasp it into a fist, nor could she raise her left arm much higher than her shoulder, especially if she were holding something. She couldn't reach into a high shelf for a coffee cup, as an example. After all that was explained to the class, I put Lily into a trance. Actually, in hypnosis, it's called a trance. Actually, it was a deep meditation. And I took her back to her earliest memory. I call that a past life immersion. When that was established, I gave her this directive, speaking directly to her inner conscious. Lily, I said, allow your inner consciousness to take you back to a past life that's having an effect on the problem that you have in this life. When you get to that life, you'll be in a place, and you will describe that place, and you will get an impression of whatever event is going on. I then had her jump into the past life, and she instantly reported, I'm in a crowd of people. I'm a little girl. My mother is going to be hung. They say she did something bad. I'm holding on to my father's hand. He's squeezing my hand. The people are yelling and fighting. My father pulls away. I don't have anyone. I'm all alone and scared. People are yelling and fighting. A soldier picks me up and takes me away. Now, let me stop this narrative for a moment. All past life immersions are not as detailed as this, but Lily went to a place and the details were really clear in her mind. She said a soldier picked her up and takes her away. And then she said, the soldier, it's Andreas. Andreas is her husband. In this life, that is. He was in the class. Well, I might as well tell you the rest of the story. Lily got up from the chair after she came out of the trance, and she glowed. She reached out her hands to her husband. He was, as I said, he was in the room as well. Well, Andreas ran up to her, and they embraced. Everyone had a smile on their faces. Well, the upshot was that Lily's hand grew stronger almost immediately. Whatever forces were at work had released her. That was a dramatic one. Lily lifted her arm without pain and was, during that demonstration, apparently healed. Now, Lily's case seems almost obvious, as they are not always like that, where the situation in the past life seems to have a bearing on the problem. Not like that at all. But Lily's case was an exception. They come up like that once in a while. I've had a few like that, but usually the past life incident seemingly has no bearing whatever on the problem in this life. But I found, and I'll be saying this again because it is important, matter of fact, it's of prime importance, that is to simply observe and simply walk through the event without judging it, without trying to do it differently. You're an observer only. The inner conscious seems to always know where to take you and takes you to the right place. And that's the thing that we're going to do with the following module. but not with hypnosis, with meditation. The difference between the two is that with hypnosis, the subject only reacts to the hypnotist's suggestions. With meditation, you act on your own suggestions, not someone else. With meditation, you are always in control. Past life therapy was so successful that I decided to bring it into one of my personal development seminars where I was teaching in part the art of meditation. Now, meditation is used for many people simply to relax away the stressful conditions of life. But, of course, that's only one of meditation's many facets. There was a young lady in the class who asked if past life therapy could help with going into a new business. My reply was, I didn't know. It can't hurt, so let's see. I then had her go into a deep meditation and then bumped her into a past life, a life that might have a negative effect on her opening a new business. Well, she projected herself into the past life with the meditation exercise, and she found herself standing in a grassy field. There were people around her apparently picking something from low-growing vines. She immersed herself in the scene and observed it, but nothing of any consequence happened. She walked through the scene a few times, watching, and then brought herself out of the meditation. Now, that seemingly has nothing whatever to do with her business, but somehow she felt a great sense of relief after that simple meditation, and she found a strong sense of motivation. She reported that her apprehension about the business had disappeared. A different kind of past life meditation came about during a class we were having in Cleveland, Ohio. A woman jumped into a past life where she was a Native American from some tribe on the East Coast. The year seemed to be that of pre-Columbus. The problem she was trying to solve had to do with the sale of a piece of property. It had been up for sale for 2 years, and even though the price seemed to be right, it just wasn't selling. As a Native American, she imagined that she lived in a community that had a permanent camp near the ocean. She imagined this idyllic life with children running around, campfires outside each tent, and a room where the elders met that had been formed with 3 trunks and branches. It was like an elaborate daydream, she reported. A month later, she called to tell me that she'd sold her property, but she couldn't believe that the past life regression had anything to do with it. And my answer was, what's the difference? Maybe it was just a crossover of timing. It would have eventually sold. Maybe it was just time for it to be sold. Then again, maybe, just maybe, the regression did lend some energy to the event to make it come about. In that same class in Cleveland, there was a woman who had a rash. It seems that she'd had the rash for 2 years. Her doctor prescribed a salve to ease it, but the rash persisted. I was tempted to use energized water, but this was a class in past life regression, and so back to a life that had something to do with the problem we went. She found herself in a city in Europe. She thought it was Paris, but she wasn't sure. She walked along one of the streets and kind of window shopped. She came to the end of the street and was attacked by 2 men who stole her purse. She screamed for the police, and one uniformed officer appeared who chased the 2 men, and eventually she got her purse back. She came out of her meditation. About an hour later, her rash grew less, and by the end of the day, the rash had disappeared. Now, there have been many tales with respect to past life therapy, as every time I did a demonstration, something of a positive nature happened. In my own case, it involved money. The year was 1975. I was with 3 of my friends, and we spoke of money consciousness. I was asked how a past life immersion could help to develop the right consciousness to attract money. I said, well, let's see. At that point, I helped the 4 of us to reach a deep meditation. It was kind of a group meditation that I was leading. We all picked out a figure, and I said I would look for $10,000 in this life coming to me from a positive source or sources. Instructing them to go to the past life that was holding them back, I went into a past life myself. I found myself in a forest. It was like a daydream. I seemed to be a hunter. I just let the vision happen, and I imagined that I was wandering through the forest. A deer suddenly appeared, and it startled itself. I guess I startled it. It ran off into the depths of the woods. I had a bow, and I quickly pulled an arrow from my quiver and shot at the deer, missing it by a wide margin. I walked over to the arrow and put it back in my quiver. That was about it. Now, what that had to do with money is anyone's guess. But I long ago learned not to question what happens when in a meditation trance. Just observe, walk through the scene, and so I did. After that, we all discussed the places we'd been, and after a while, we left. 3 days later, I received a call from a relative that he was giving me and 2 other family members $10,000, as he had just had a windfall. Now, I would be the first to admit that it probably would have happened anyhow. But there's always that seed of doubt that says, maybe. Maybe something was set in motion at a deep universal level. I don't know. I do know that over the years I've had many stories pretty much like that about money, health, business, and a slew of other problems that were solved by a simple past life immersion and observing whatever scene comes up. Now, during the next module, we're going to go through a past life immersion. But first, a bit of instruction. First of all, you want to activate your intent. You must activate your intent. To do that, you simply think about a specific outcome that you want to happen after the meditation. What is it that you're using past life therapy for? Money? Health? Business? Relationships? Attracting something? Repelling something? What? Once you've decided that you have your target, something is keeping you from it. Now, that thing may be in a past life. Once you have the thing you want corrected in your mind, then you listen to the next module. Now, while in the meditation state, you'll find yourself somewhere. It may be familiar, it may not be. It may not seem to have anything to do with the problem that you're looking to correct. It may not. You may not get a particular scene at all. You may just get an imaginary, a fog-like thing. You may get a sense that something is going on. It may be just darkness. It doesn't matter. Whatever scene you sense, just allow it to happen. Don't be concerned about it. Just observe it, walk through it, or just view it as though you were there watching yourself. That's all there is to it. It sounds too simple? Well, that's because it is simple. But just allow it to happen, walk through the scene, and once again, if it works, it works. So, next module, find a relaxed place, and we will begin. Module 3. Relax. Make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And when you exhale, mentally repeat and visualize the number 3 times. 3, 3, 3, like that. Take another deep breath, and while exhaling, mentally repeat and visualize the number 2 3 times. Take another deep breath, and while exhaling, mentally repeat and visualize the number 1 3 times. You are now at a deeper, healthier level of mind. To reach a deeper, healthier level of mind at any time, just take an occasional deep breath. To help you reach the proper depth of meditation, imagine that you're on the top of a stairway. There are 15 steps. You're going to mentally walk down those steps one at a time. Each time you descend a step, allow yourself to go deeper into the meditation. You're at the 15th step. Step down to the 14th, the 13th, the 12th, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. You are now at a deeper, a healthier level of mind. You are now and always in complete control of your state of mind. You can open your eyes. You can be fully alert anytime you want to be. Every time you enter this relaxed state, know that you're getting better and better in every way. Whenever you enter this relaxed state, you'll mentally say every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. When you say these words, sense yourself improving in all areas of your life. Sense yourself getting better and better. Relax. Relax your eyes. Relax your lips and jaw. Relax your head, your neck. Relax your chest, your stomach, your back. Relax your body. Relax your hips, your legs, your feet. Relax your arms and hands, your shoulders. You're now completely relaxed. At this time, you will go back to an incident in a past life that is having an effect on this life. You will automatically go back to an incident that has created a problem in your present life. Just allow the scene to take place. It may seem to have something to do with the problem that you're looking to overcome. It may not. Do not be concerned about that. Just observe. Observe what you sense and walk through the scene. It may seem like a simple daydream. It may seem very real. However you sense it will be all right. Before you go to that past life, think about something you had recently for dinner. Now think about an incident that took place when you were in school. Now think about your earliest memory. Now I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and at the count to 3, you'll project yourself into a past life. A life that is having an effect on the problem you're looking to resolve. You'll imagine a scene of some sort. It may seem to have nothing to do with the problem, but don't concern yourself with that. Just let the scene happen and observe. It may seem like a daydream. Just allow it to happen. 1, 2, 3. Project yourself to that past life. Where are you? What do you see? What do you sense? You're imagining a scene. Just allow it to happen. Relax. Take your time and observe. Relax. I will now count from 1 to 3, and you will project yourself back into this life. 1, 2, 3. You're now back. Relax. The resource you have just used is to help you to deal with the problem that you are setting a goal to resolve. In a moment, I will count once again from 1 to 3. This time, you will come out of the meditation and be fully awake and energized, feeling better than before. In our next meditation, you will go even deeper, and you will use a bright light, a fog, to reach that past life. 1, 2, 3. Eyes open, wide awake, feeling refreshed, feeling better than before.